Hello and welcome to Kentucky Outlook. Coming up on the program today, we're going to talk with a wheelchair athlete just back from completing the Boston Marathon. Matt Davis is going to share that story. In addition, in this half hour, we're going to be talking with the man who's steering the course for Western Kentucky University, Dr. Gary Ransdell. That and more coming up on Kentucky Outlook next. Stay with us. The program is Kentucky Outlook. I'm Barbara Deeb. We come to you every week with the latest in public affairs to let you know what's going on in your region. We're very happy to have with us Dr. Gary Ransdell. He is the president of Western Kentucky University, and under his guidance, the university is thriving. So it's got to feel good.
Well, we're having fun. People are working hard, and it's kind of hard for Julie and me to believe that it's been now 16 years in this job, but we're still on our honeymoon, literally and figuratively. So it's great. We have a faculty and staff that are just working hard and dedicated, and a student body that brings great energy to the campus. And now with the new Alumni Center, we have an invigorated alumni population that are equally important in this university family.
Well, I want to talk about some of those things.
Yeah.
And since you've given me a nice segue into the Augenstein Alumni Center, it was dedicated earlier this week, or at the end of last week. And it's a $5 million facility, and for you, it's got to be, you know, as I was driving around campus the other day, I thought, it's almost like when you're a child and you're putting those puzzle pieces together, yes, or the Legos together.
Yes.
You've added yet another beautiful building to this campus.
Well, our Alumni Center for the last 50 or so years has been in the Craig Alumni Center, which is the original President's Home, which was built in 1931, a Britton Davis piece of architecture that matches up with the architecture across the top of the hill, if you know our history. And it's a home. So it really wasn't an alumni center. It was a place for a few offices, and as our Office of Alumni Relations and our Alumni Association has grown over the years, now with over 100,000 alumni, we needed to keep up with higher education and create a home for our alumni, but it would require our alumni to fund that. So a private fundraising effort has been underway for the last few years, raised the money to build it. It's actually about an $8 million building. The top two floors are the Alumni Center. The ground floor is a conference center that our Office of Catering and Conferencing Services will operate for the entire campus and anyone in the community or wherever that wants to use that space. But it is an identity. The building is spectacular. Yes, we dedicated it just last week. But the entire building is designed to reflect the personality of WKU, to reflect our history, our unique traditions, the things that define us. And if you're not nurturing those things, they can fade away in a hurry. And we're anything but an ordinary institution, and our traditions and values are uniquely WKU, and this building reflects that. So I think it's going to be a great source of pride to our alumni, and it's where we will originate all of our campus tours for prospective students. So when a prospective student comes to campus, the seed of a lifelong affiliation with WKU is planted the first day they step foot on campus, and presumably once they get in this building and then proceed across our campus, we've closed the deal, and those students are then Hilltoppers. That's right.
And we were showing some footage of that building. It is an extraordinary building, and now there are a few pieces to that puzzle that need to be completed. And in particular, I'm talking about statues. There are going to be some bronze statues.
There are, and I'm not sure where those are en route, but the sculptor, the artist, has completed them. Russ Faxon, who's an alumnus in our Hall of Distinguished Alumni, and they'll be delivered shortly. There's a deck to be built along the side, and we're negotiating with some developers for a restaurant and possibly a hotel and some other things that will surround that Alumni Center and that parking structure to really make Alumni Square, which is what that block is now being called, a spectacular addition to the north end of our campus and begin to bring the campus and downtown Bowling Green together. It's part of the Tax Incremental Financing District, which is called WKU Gateway to Downtown Bowling Green. This begins developing down Center and Kentucky Street toward downtown to marry those two, what I consider the dual heartbeat of South Central Kentucky, downtown Bowling Green and the WKU campus. The degree to which we can bring those together is the degree to which the energy of downtown comes alive.
Well, when you talk about those TIF districts, that's something that you have to work in conjunction with the city and
with the city and the state, and you're able to capture income tax revenues that can come back to the community, which is an important incentive. But that TIF district goes all the way from Alumni Square at the front edge of our campus all the way downtown to the medical center, where we're also building a new building in partnership with the medical center that will be a WKU Medical Center Health Science Complex. It will house our School of Nursing and our Doctor of Physical Therapy degree program, and moving those programs entirely into that facility from the campus. So again, working with partners to create opportunities to grow our academic programs.
Now, if you haven't been to Bowling Green lately, you need to visit the campus because it's changed. Well, keeping the traditions, as you so aptly point out, it's changed in so many ways. It's exquisite. But in particular, the building you're referencing that's on the bypass, that's in conjunction with the medical center.
It's on the medical center campus, right on 31W, and it's a 75,000 square foot building. And again, our entire baccalaureate and doctoral programs in nursing, along with a Doctor of Physical Therapy degree. And we'll be in that building this summer. So all that transition will occur in just the next few months, and we'll be ready to go when classes start in August.
Now, because the nursing program is expanding, so
we're
here
doubling
at
the size
WKU.
of our nursing program. We were locked into the space in the academic complex on our main campus, and so this building allows us to double the size of our School of Nursing, the baccalaureate and graduate degree programs, again, which better serves the healthcare needs of across this region.
What about the students? Okay, so now we've got the space, we can accommodate them, but there's a whole different set of dynamics and logistics that goes with increasing by double the amount of students that are going to be here.
Well, the number of students in nursing, not at the university. We've gone through some pretty significant growth periods over the last dozen years in nursing and otherwise, but we've gone from 14 to 21,000 students over the last 10 or 15 years. Our enrollment is stable right now. We do have plans to grow in the next few years, but it will be much more modest than what we were experiencing over the last 10 or 15 years.
Now, what do we attribute that to? I mean, and is that a nationwide trend, or is it?
No, hardly. In fact, a nationwide trend is declining enrollments, a evening out of the high school populations, which is going to make it more competitive. But again, as we continue to grow academic programs, as we continue to improve our academic quality, we've grown the number of full-time faculty on our campus every year since 2008, since the recessionary environment. While we've had $14 million cut out of our budget in state funding, we've increased the number of full-time faculty and reduced the number of part-time faculty, a very important dynamic in academic quality, which means we've cut administrative operations, we've cut lots of things, we've protected academic quality, and that's good news for the students who come here. We've built a world-class honors college, we're growing our internationalization of the WKU experience for our students, and doing things that make us very attractive. And this campus itself, as we have invested over $600 million, only about 20% of which has come from the state. The rest we've created ourselves to invest in a high quality of life on this campus, building renovations, building replacements, building additions, and most of that is in academics, and we're very proud of that, but residence halls and campus restaurants and athletic facilities certainly as well. But if you come to this campus, you want to be a Hilltopper, you want to be part of this tradition, you want to be part of this university family, and that's why we're growing, and that's why there's a high level of energy and institutional self-esteem, if you will, and the symbols that represent us are put to good use across this campus.
Can you feel the passion? You're right. It's there, and you know, and a lot of those buildings needed fixing because they'd been around for a long time.
Starting this job in 1997. When I walked, because I was away for 18 years. I had a long road trip, Julie and I did, to a couple great universities, Southern Methodist University and Clemson University as a vice president. But when we came back in 97, the campus was tired, complacent, and in pretty desperate need of some love and attention. And that's exactly what we've provided. And there is a passion that runs deep here. And it's reflected in the place itself. And university campuses define a university's personality. Yes, it starts with people, but the place itself is pretty important to make sure that when a student walks out of that residence hall or a faculty member walks out of that academic building, they're inspired by where they are, and that's what we want for all of our students, faculty, and staff. We're
going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take a short break here on Kentucky Outlook, but lots more to come, so stay with us. Kentucky Outlook continues. I'm Barbara Deeb. We are joined by Dr. Gary Ransdell, the president of Western Kentucky University. And in our first segment, you heard a lot about what's happening on this campus, the change, the growth, the way, in essence, it's almost like remaining relevant in this day and time. I mean, you have to be in that place.
Young people have choices, and lots of choices, and technology is making the world a smaller place. Every economic impact is felt across the globe. Students have lots of choices, and those choices aren't just as regional as they used to be. So you have to stay relevant. You have to ensure high value in the degree that our students pursue, and you have to make sure that we're the destination point. We want to be the destination point for Kentucky's best intellectual minds, but also the students that maybe have to struggle a little bit, but a good average student, we need to be the home for them as well. We're driving our degree productivity. We're now producing over 4,000 graduates every year, and that's up from about 2,300 just about 10 years ago. So we're putting students, qualified students, bright students into the workplace, especially coming out of our honors college, which is now 1,200 students.
Well, that in and of itself, but you know, not everybody qualifies to be an honors student,
Right,
you know,
right.
and they want to get in, they want to get a college
Most
education.
don't, which is why by developing an honors college, it helps us recruit the very best faculty who also teach all of our other students as well. And when we make physical improvements to our campus, it's for all of our students. We're very mindful that we need to be accessible, affordable, yet we need to produce high value in the degrees that are earned here.
So you get your money's worth,
You bet.
basically. Now, let's talk about getting our money's worth, because it's that time. The economy is in a crazy place, and you have managed to lead the charge that, you know, you're making it. We're making it.
We've had a balanced budget for every year that I've been here the last 16 years. It's been a struggle. Just since 2008, when the recession began, as I said a moment ago, we've had $14 million in state funding cut out of our budget. State funding is now 18% of our total budget. So we're much more dependent upon other revenue sources, tuition chief among them.
No, wait, 18% compared to what was it?
When I started as president, it was 50%.
50?
Yeah, that's how much the funding dynamics have changed. Now, the state funding is about the same that it was when I started as president, and our budget's now for up to $400 million annual budget. So our budget's grown, and our enrollment's grown, and everything about us has grown. It's just that state funding has dropped from about $7,000 per student to $4,500 per student. And that's the biggest frustration that I've had in my time as president. But I've said many times, we're going to control our own destiny. We're not going to wring our hands about what the state cannot do for us. We're going to find other ways to get it done. Our benefactors have been great. 2 successful capital campaigns raising over $300 million. Sponsored research. Our business practices are sound. And our pricing and our tuition is, I think, at a right price point for WKU within our marketplace.
How are things changing, though, in the way that we can deliver these services? Because we have satellite campuses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do have 3 regional campuses in Owensboro, Elizabethtown, and Glasgow, and we have about 5,000 students on those regional campuses. We have nearly 60 degree programs entirely online, so we have thousands of students that take online courses, about 2,000 or so that are only online, but most of our full-time students on the main campus living in a residence hall will take an online course.
Sure.
Because they can, and it's a way to knock a particular course requirement out. And so online learning has become very important for us. But we're going to stay around 20% of our coursework will be offered online and delivered online. I'm a little nervous about getting that ratio too much more than that, because I want to make sure that the human exchange of ideas and ideals remains core to our principles at WKU. And in the final analysis, it is about people. But online learning has become very important, particularly for people who can't be a traditional full-time student on our main campus. So we have the largest online enrollment, both in numbers and courses and degree programs of any of the universities in Kentucky. So it's an important part of what we do, but it won't, at least for the future that I can see, be the primary means of delivery.
Let's talk about what's ahead for WKU. You know, you've got the game plan, but what's right there on your radar that you just want to make sure happens?
Well, financial stability is the main thing. We have to keep our price point well within our marketplace, and in Kentucky, that price point, we know what U of L and UK's price point is. We know what all the other universities are. We know what the price points are for all the universities in all the states that surround us, all the public universities. And we want to stay right in the median of that, maybe slightly above the median. So we need to be affordable. We need to understand the marketplace. And I don't want pricing to ever be a reason why we have an enrollment dynamic that is less than positive. And so far, that has not been the case. But that's something we have to be mindful of. And it's difficult when state funding is in decline and there's a limit to how much you can raise tuition. And we're in a 3 to 5% tuition increase mode for the last few years. It's probably going to be 3% this coming year. But that's not enough for us to balance a budget. So we're going to have to, even though we do not have a forced budget cut from the state this year, we're probably going to have to trim our budgets in order to have a balanced budget by only raising tuition by 3%. You know, inflation's a strange thing because higher education's always going to be at the high end of those dynamics that create an inflationary average. Electron microscopes and supercomputers and all the things that a university has to have that most households or businesses don't have to stay competitive. That's why pricing for higher education will always grow at a rate faster than the rate of inflation. It's just a reality of what we have to do as a university campus to be competitive in that marketplace.
Athletics. There have been some changes in athletics here over the past
Going
year.
into Conference USA in 14 and a half months, but who's counting? July 1, 2014, we will go into Conference USA, a great conference with a great history. It will reduce the geography that our student athletes and fans will have to travel to get to away games, better opportunities for bowl games for our football program, 5 bowl contracts and 2 backup agreements. So once that move is made, we will not have to worry about being bowl eligible and not be placed in a bowl. So a lot of, and more revenue, better television contract, more revenue sharing among member institutions. So we think everything is going in the right direction for athletics, and that's an important move for us, for our fans and for our student athletes in many measurable ways.
And personnel. I mean, do you have a new coach?
We do.
Coach Petrino.
And he's getting ready to have the spring game this Saturday, which will be April 20. So he's made a lot of progress, and the precision with which he is working and the pace and the energy being exerted and the teaching that's being done, I'm just so impressed with what he and his coaches, because these coaches have been where we want to be as a program. They've been to BCS games.
Right.
And they've been to national championship games.
And now it's
and so now they're helping us learn what we need to do to get there rather than having coaches who want to be where we want to go but hadn't been there.
Gotcha.
These guys know what it takes, and our young men are learning a lot from them.
That's
It's great to watch. Our academics are better than they've ever been across all of our athletic programs.
Very exciting.
So that whole part of WKU is on the right track.
Well, we talked about coming up on Kentucky Outlook. We're going to talk with a WKU employee and an alumni who was in the Boston Marathon. He was there. He's a wheelchair runner. He's going to be coming up in a little bit, which begs the question, when an incident like that happens, suddenly people start looking and saying, you know, how safe are we on a university campus?
We have a WKU Police Department of about 30 officers that are trained just like any member of the state police or the city police in Louisville or Lexington or any other city or Bowling Green. They're qualified, they're well trained, and they know what to do in an emergency, in a crisis. Whether it's a weather-related crisis, whether it's a shooter, whether it's anything as tragic as some of the things we've been reading about lately. They are prepared. They know how to access every building. They know how to cordon off the campus, any place on campus. We have a game plan. In fact, I asked the Chief of Police, Bob Dean, to make a report to our Board of Regents at the last Board of Regents meeting for precisely that reason, so that our governing board has confidence that we are prepared, no matter what the crisis, we're prepared to handle it and deal with it promptly, effectively, and keep people safe. And that's the main thing. This is a very safe campus. It's a well-lit campus, but heaven forbid a crisis or a catastrophe that's happened elsewhere, whatever happened here. But if it does, we will be prepared, and we will deal with it promptly and decisively.
Well, I have no doubt under your tutelage. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing.
And congratulations to Matt Davis for performing. He's a world-class.
Oh, this is his 4th Boston Marathon.
With his wheelchair, and he's a great role model for those that navigate this campus who have handicaps every day.
Thank you so much,
You
Dr.
bet. Thanks,
Gary
Barb.
Ransdell, the president
Thank
of
you.
Western Kentucky University. When we come back, you'll meet Matt Davis, so stay with us. Kentucky Outlook continues. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You know, it was the perfect day, they say, those participants. It was nice, cool weather. There was a supportive city and thousands of primed and ready runners. It was Patriots Day, a day when the city of Boston gives up business as usual, closes the doors, and welcomes a global flock of runners. They were cheered on by friends and loved ones, and as they got to showcase their city, the Bostonians. Then amidst the triumph of completion at the finish line, tragedy struck when a pair of explosions shattered the day. As we speak, the investigation into the explosions at the Boston Marathon continues. But for one man, that's not going to change the way he does business. He will not be ruled by fear. But he did run in 4 Boston Marathons, the most recent just a couple of days ago. Thank you for joining us. Matt Davis, you, as I say, have run the Boston Marathon 4 times.
I've wheeled it.
Wheeled it, thank you. And 39, or how many
37.
marathons? Wow, that's a lot of marathons.
Once I added them up, I couldn't believe that it was that many. But in my first marathon, I couldn't believe that I was actually going to do it. And then once it was over, I was like, when is the next one?
Wow, like that adrenaline punch.
Yes.
Now you say wheeled because you were born with spina bifida and you are a wheelchair athlete.
Yes.
That's what you do. So going to Boston, this was your 4th. It was probably just another marathon?
For me, of course, even for the wheelchair division, the guys and gals who participated in that event, it's still a prestigious event for us too. It's a big deal because you still have to qualify even for our division for the race. And they actually had the largest wheelchair participant field this year.
Well, when you say qualify, what people may not, if you're not a marathoner or don't know much about that, you do have to qualify for these big races like the Chicago Marathon, I think, has a New York
sure.
Marathon, Boston. You have to qualify to say that you're a pretty good runner or participant or wheeler.
Right.
And so you did that. You did that at another race in Minnesota. You
Yes,
qualified.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And that was in June, where I submitted the time that I had participated in the Grandma's Marathon in Duluth earlier that year.
The Grandma's Marathon?
Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, yes.
Nothing marathon-y about that, is there?
The finish line has a restaurant called Grandma's, and they were the sponsor of the race at the beginning. So
I gotcha. So let's take us to Boston now.
Okay.
As we speak, I say the investigation is underway, and we had a total of 4 runners from the Bowling Green area. All of them are safe. They're
Right.
making their way back home. You came back that next day.
I came back the same evening.
The same evening.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So take us through, help people get a sense of what it was like to be there amidst all of this, the Boston Marathon. I mean, like you say, you've done it 4 times. Just another marathon?
It's the Boston Marathon, the feel that you have there. It's in, Boston's a great city in general, but in the city of Boston, where the finish line is where everybody sort of congregates, it's such a great feel. You have people everywhere. They're all walking around, wheeling around, just going to the expo, just talking. Everybody's discussing what race they've done, and that's what the camaraderie with all the runners and the wheelers is. What's your next race, or where have you been? And people haven't seen each other for a while, so the whole positive vibe of the Boston Marathon is just. It's unique to any other race, I think.
Well, you say it's like this global community because people come from all over the world to
Yes.
participate in this. And you've got this shared something. It's this, we're going to run this, or we're going to
Right.
walk this. They don't allow walkers, but they're going to, we're going to wheel
Participate,
this
yes.
and participate. So the thing that gets me is they're now identifying a backpack that may have contained these explosive devices.
correct, yeah.
But if you've been to those kinds of things, everybody's carrying stuff. You got water bottles, you got this, you got that. You're going to the expo, you're picking up information. It would be so difficult, I would think, to check
Single out
everybody.
anyone.
Sure.
Everybody has most of the guys who are gals that are in chairs, we have a backpack that we carry with us just because of, various things that we may need. So it's not unusual, even for runners, to have that type of equipment with them.
With them.
Yes.
But no screening, the way we know that's going to change.
Right.
But as it stood, just this recent Boston Marathon, no security, you didn't have to go through anything like that.
People ask me, what kind of police presence there was there, and you saw police for more traffic control and more pedestrian control, but any other security presence you really didn't see a whole lot. No security coming in and out of the expo and that sort of thing. Race morning, it was a little bit more structured. But it's interesting because the wheelers, we are we meet at a certain hotel, and then they take us on a bus. We actually get a police motorcade to the starting line, and then they allow us to congregate in a gym, so we get to meet each other there. So it's exclusive for us as far as not, we have a little bit more, more privileges than I guess some, and so it's such a well-organized race and laid back that it's too bad that that's going to change from now on. And not for just this race, but for other races, I'm sure.
For a lot of activities,
Sure.
indeed. So take us, you got through with the race, you had a little issue with a wheel, you had to change a flat
tire, yes.
Yeah. So you decided then that you were going to New Hampshire where you were staying. You were going to fly out of
Yes.
New Hampshire?
Yes, I drove. That's why I wanted to get out. Usually I will, stay
Linger.
another day sometimes even and hang out with friends. But because I had to catch my flight, I wanted to get out of there once I recovered a little bit, once I remembered who I was. No.
After the race?
Yes.
That's a lot of, that's a lot of work.
And so once I was able to recover a little bit, I actually went to my car and drove out of town because I was in a hurry to catch a flight. And I was wondering why everybody was trying to call me on my cell phone once I arrived to Manchester, and didn't really realize when I arrived at the airport, one of the TSA individuals told me what had happened, and then I finally realized. I didn't really understand the whole magnitude of it at first, but my first reaction is, are my friends okay, and I need to call my mom.
And you did both of those?
Yes.
And your friends, everyone that you
Yes.
were affiliated with was, yes.
They were all fine.
And thank goodness for that. But you're interested, it's minutes, it's moments, it's, normally if you weren't taking that flight, you could say I might have stuck around because
Right.
so many people linger at the finish line there because you want to see your friends finish and that kind of thing. You want to see the kind of times. What did you learn from this?
I learned that, nothing is sacred anymore as far as where you go to these type of events, but it's not going to stop me from going to these events. If you stop going to these type of events, then those type of people, they win. So people always ask me, it's interesting, do you travel by yourself and how do you do this on your own? But I just you just do it. So that's not going to stop me from going. My mother, when I finally was able to talk to her, she said, well, you're not going to do this.
No more marathons for you.
You're not doing Boston again. I said, yes, I'll probably go again next year. So.
And that seems to be the consensus of your peers, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes,
Yes.
that's not going to keep us from. You can't live in fear, and so we're just going to keep on rolling.
There you go. Keep on rolling. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
We've been talking with wheelchair athlete just back from the Boston Marathon, Matt Davis. That's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of Kentucky Outlook. Our thanks to Matt and, of course, to Dr. Gary Ransdell, who joined us earlier in the program. We'll see you next week.